All right, and go ahead and get yourself comfy and settled. Hi, Maddie.
Hi.
I am so excited to finally get a chance to work with you in person. You have been someone who, over the last year, have made many different appearances on our platform and done some amazing work and built a really great audience with Adult Time. But it's our first time getting to talk.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being a part of this. So I want to know a little bit more about you. Can you tell me about who you are, where you're from, a little bit about your background, please?
So I was raised like Irish Catholic in Chicago, Chicago suburbs. And I mean, it really was just kind of like, this is like the standard. Like, you go to school, you go to college, you get married, you have kids. Like, it was very much stick to the routine. And um, I kind of always was a black sheep in that sense. Like, even my parents, they're like, you would just go and like sing songs in front of whole like groups of people and just be the star of the show sort of thing. And so I always kind of knew I wanted more than that, but I never really knew where I fit in. I mean, even to this day, I'm like, I know that I am getting closer to figuring out like what I want to do with myself, but there's still so much to explore that every day is a new day, really. And I have had in my past a couple of like near-death experiences and stuff like that that like really resets my mind and makes me think like, you got one shot at doing this. So I mean, I just kind of tap into my inner child and really let that charisma and that attitude and that confidence like come out if it ever gets buried too deep in there. But yeah, I grew up doing plays, grew up around a lot of music. Both of my parents are hippies and they have no problem with what I'm doing. They're like, as long as you're safe, as long as you're happy. And growing up, my only rules were don't lie, don't steal, and kind of be a good person. And so they see that kind of staying true within my adulthood. And yeah, so all my family is very supportive in what I do, and I couldn't be more thankful of that. They just really want to see me keep true to myself, which sex work is definitely very true to myself. COVID had a really big part in it, but before COVID, I was dancing, and before that, I was a preschool teacher, and before that, a dental assistant. Both things just didn't fit. I had a really bad experience with working with kids where I saw a child get hurt. I have a really big heart, and I realized that just wasn't for me. And so I was like, how can I solidify never working with children again? Let's be a stripper. Yeah. So I really enjoyed doing that. And like growing up, I was in training for like a lot of different gymnastics and things like that. And so dancing made sense to me. And I mean, I lived in Arizona where it was super duper hot. I was dancing in the summer. I'm like, and I get to be nocturnal. Super cool. So yeah, from there, I was loving that. COVID happened, club shut down, and I just so happened to be filming OnlyFans content, which I didn't really know what OnlyFans was. I would just use it to talk to my clients from the club. It's kind of like a texting app sort of thing. And I remember I was like, yeah, I'll collab with you. Like, I was like, we're just gonna hook up. Like, I'm not too worried about that. And from that guy, he ended up being a recruiter, and he kind of really helped me find my footing in the first like couple weeks of deciding if I wanted to do it or not. Because I knew as soon as he mentioned it, I was like, I'll sign the contract right now. Where do I go? It just really made sense to me. I've definitely taken back the power of my own sexuality. And that was another thing in joining porn that it just felt like the right move. Growing up, I didn't have many good sexual experiences. It was more of, I want to be anywhere but home right now. I want to do anything I can, so I'll do anyone I can in a sense. And I always associated that with like, oh, hanging out with people. That's what you do because that's kind of what I got into the habit of. And so when I started dancing for a little bit, I had no partners and I was just on the grind doing this and that. And that kind of gave me a little bit of stability and knowing that, like, hey, you're the shit. You have your own house to go home to. You have peace. You have this and that, my animals and stuff like that. And so that was kind of like a moment of relief where it's just like, if you do well for yourself, you can have the world, and you don't have to give up parts of yourself just to receive love back, in a sense. And so now joining sex work and things like that, it's all people that are so strong and so like resilient and things like that, where it's like a lot of them have had a history like mine, but they're reclaiming it back and they're making products that are their own and their own direction and everything like that. Yeah. Not so much of a myth, but just like the shame in it. I mean, anybody can experience that release and feel good about it, but there's this shame that's like, at least from my growing up, it's like you have the shame after, like that was a bad thing. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be that way. You have the power to like make your own judgment on what you want for yourself in life. And so if I enjoy making myself come, we could all die tomorrow. There's no reason to. Like hold yourself back on anything that makes you happy that isn't hurting anybody else. I remember way back when there was this site where you just talk to strangers on video chat all day long. And I should not have been on there. I used a fake name and I was like, I'm just gonna find friends. So me and my friends would always goof around on there. And then the topic got brought up and we were all kind of like, don't know what that is even about. I mean, we grew up Catholic, and so it's not talked about, you know? Like that's the last thing that's talked about is like female pleasure, in a sense. But yeah, from that it kind of just sparked my interest. I mean, I had a smartphone at the time, and so I was able to kind of go back and in the Tumblr porn days, I was like, gray sweatpants, shirtless boy, gray sweatpants. And that was my thing when I first started. I did that for like months. I was like, that's just enough. And it's still a good thing to get me going. But I had an electric toothbrush and I went to town and my parents were very curious why I kept wanting new toothbrushes, but I kept losing them. I think I didn't realize it. I think somebody else brought it to my attention almost because I had a long-term ex that used to call me Puddle as a joke, and we didn't understand that squirt is cum. And so I always thought it was just like the intimacy, the this and that, but we started having a good conversation about it, and it took like actual penetration to do it, which took a little bit longer from my journey of self-exploration at first. A more recent thing that's happened in my life is recently became sober from like pretty much anything. I'll still smoke weed, but from that, I got hit with the sex addiction like crazy. And so knowing my history with kind of choosing anybody to let around in my circle and like be around my peace, I've been masturbating quite a lot and it's slowed down a little bit, but now, I mean, I always kind of started my day just once or twice, just magic wand, just something, even if it's fingers, if I'm out of town, anything. And I got a little crazy when I did have the sex addiction because it was just that release that I was looking for, that dopamine release just over and over again. And so now, once or twice, you know, in the morning before I go take a shower, if I need to get one out after the shower or during, I have dildos everywhere in my house. So I'll usually try to switch up the ways that I masturbate just to kind of not overstimulate myself or not make myself feel like I'm not going to have stimulation in certain parts of me. And so recently I've been starting to do anal as well. And that's kind of opening up like a whole new thing where it's like um, you gotta like have sex responsibly like that. You have to know your body. You have to know what your limits are and things like that. Before I would just be like, I'm just gonna come over and over and over again from clitoral stimulation. But now it's a bit different where um, I know that it feels good, but only if you do it right. And so it's been being patient with myself more recently is the thing, just kind of limiting it, and making sure that I get it right the first couple times. The advice that I live by, that I got way back when was, if not now, then when? If not who, then, or if not you, then who? And that's really what I try to follow by. It's like, if you want to do something, what better time than now? And who else is going to do it but yourself? And so I really wish that there was less, I mean, you see it on the internet, just shame about women's sexuality. And it's always these dudes that I mean, are I'm not even gonna go into that. There's so much shame around girls' sexuality, and it really sucks to see because I think if you do anything in a way that you're comfortable with, whether it's jumping out of an airplane or doing a 12 guy gangbang, that's yours to own. It's your life to live, and why care what other people think, really? Because those people are the person that you're falling asleep with at night. You're the only one that you have to please.
I love that. Well, in the spirit of being the only one that you have to please, I want to thank you, Madi, for sharing yourself and being amazing, being part of this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I think we now may go and do something that we were just talking about. So I will invite you to come off of the stage.
Thank you. And I only have myself to please for now.